Hey, welcome back to RBB. We are here today at Southwest Washington's premier shooting range, Safe Fire, also their retail area and training facility. With me today, like last time, is Ben Edmond from Fundamental Shooting. So Ben, good to see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
All right, well, I think there's a lot more we have to chew on. So is there anything that we missed last time or anything that maybe we should have said better or...
So one of the things that I was thinking about is we didn't touch much on the law of diminishing returns. You know, how much training is enough?
Mhm.
What level do you need to get to? And ultimately, that's a decision that each one of us have to make. And on a scale of 1 to 10, are we happy at being a 4? And how much work is it going to take to become a 5?
Mhm.
And is it better to be a specialist or is it better to be a generalist? So that's just an interesting concept. If you take, I want to be a world class shooter. I want to win the top of open class every time. How much energy and effort is that really going to take versus your average home self defender who needs to have a high enough skill level that you're prepared to genuinely deal with a firearm in a public setting. So you've got to have a certain degree of competency, but do you need to be a master class? Does it require hours and hours every day or every week in order to achieve?
Well, I can tell you that in my experience, limited experience of shooting competition, especially when I was shooting doing speed shooting pretty regularly, you got to the point where your practice sessions, you were really trying to shave off tenths of seconds consistently. And I'm aware of some people who that they shoot marksmanship, and they're very good, and they're now training to the point where they're trying to get 49 X's instead of 48 X, X ring hits. And again, what's required for, if you're doing this for self-defense, you're exactly right. What's the point, or where do you get to the point where it's so infinitesimal that maybe you should be looking at other skill sets? So I'm curious, have you chewed on that? Do you have an answer or some considerations?
So I talk regularly to all of my students talking about combat effective hits. From a bullseye perspective, we can get really zoned in and focused on hitting the very center and drilling out a little thumb-sized hole in the target. And while that makes us feel good from an ego perspective, it makes us feel like we can shoot. Which is better, to be able to put 3 shots stacked on top of one another in 10 seconds, or to be able to get 10 shots in a minute of bad guy scenario in a second and a half or 2 seconds? Speed versus accuracy, and you have to find a balance. They're both critical. You have to have speed and you have to have accuracy. And you can really only train one at a time, and that would be another piece to talk about. I think we mentioned it at one point in time, but the concept of when I come to the range, there's some very valuable time that I want to set aside as my training time. And I need to have a measurable, marked skill set. So for instance, draw to first shot. Being able to get the gun out of the holster and get an effective shot on target. How long does that take me? Does that take me 2 seconds? Does that take me 3 seconds? I think the guys from Active Self-Protection, they use 2 seconds as the standard. We as your average self-defender needs a 2-second draw to first shot.
Okay.
Professionals, you want a second and a half draw to first shot. And if you're stupid good at this and do this all the time, you're at a sub 1 second draw to first shot. But until we've actually got out a shot timer and figured it out,
right?
And it's another interesting piece of that is that the most valuable shots are the first 5 shots on the range. When you first get to the range, when you're cold, you're not warmed up, whether or not what's your draw time and shot time at that point.
Well, I like the way that you said that, is that they're the most valuable shots because they exist every single time you go to the range, and they're useful every single time if you're willing. a lot of people will say that's me getting warmed up. Well, that's one way to look at it, but the other thing is that may be the truest test of your current ability.
Yeah.
And so I think you've really touched on something just with that concept that um, when I was hearing you talk about guys who, or anybody, gals too, who can do a 1 second draw from concealment, I was thinking I'd like to see that someone do that cold.
Yeah.
With not even knowing they're going to the range, that is some people can do it, but cold, that's a very rare skill. And then even then, consider it in all ranges of combat in all positions. From a seated position, you still got that 1 second. Having to turn around and engage something where you have to first identify what it is, and then, holy smokes, here it is, with that startle. That's pretty impressive if you can do that. But again, what's good enough? And those standards, I think what you're talking about are sort of a gut check for people of where am I at? Can I even make those standards? And if not, I think that, look, if you're fighting the timer and you're getting close, is it really valuable if you can do a 2 second 2.10 draw consistently? Should you really be spending every single day just trying to get to that first shot? Well, then you have to go and what's the accuracy once you do get on target, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you should split that time just even in that drill.
And you can work on your draw stroke and you can work on your accuracy. It's very difficult to work on both at the same time.
Right.
You've got to pick one or the other and stay focused on that, and then stay focused on the other, and eventually you start putting it together. Those training pieces do come together at some point in time.
Right. Thanks, folks. We'll catch you back here next time on ranges, backstops, and berms.
Train hard, train fast.